In this module, we will apply some of the previously learned decision techniques through different business as well as personal finance scenarios. And we will also learn a few additional concepts related to this through evaluating different scenarios. In this module, we will be covering the following: make versus buy decision, shut down versus continue, couple of personal finance decisions such as purchase or rent, that is buying or renting a car for example, how EMIs are calculated, how much insurance cover you should have, and how to attain financial freedom. Let's start with make versus buy decision. In the previous module, we realized the cafe business does not make sense as it was negative NPV. Net present value of the cafe business that we calculated had negative net present value. Hence, we did not pursue that business. Given India is a young economy and has growing middle class population consisting of families with kids, the demand for toys is ever increasing. So you have now decided to invest in a toy business. You did your analysis with respect to net present value and you realize that it is a profitable business and you're ready to begin. Now you're faced with another decision, and that decision is these toys can either be made by yourself, that is manufacturing them in a factory, or you can buy it from outside. You would have heard that there are a lot of Chinese toys that are available in Indian market. So those have been procured from China market and sold in India market. Let's discuss what are the various factors that may be in favor for making toys. Well, first of all, cost. Making a toy in your facility might be cheaper than buying from a third party vendor. You have better control over product quality. The intellectual property rights stay with you. For example, let's say you make a toy that was not there in the market, you can get it patented. So those intellectual property rights can be with you. If you have these rights, you can actually price your product higher than what is the closest competitor you have in the market. So that really protects you and provides you pricing power. In case of buy, your business is entirely dependent on the supplier supplying the toys on time, and if he is unreliable, your business would suffer. What are the various factors that might be for buying? Well, first of all, speed to market. You don't have to set up a factory, you can just get into an agreement to buy a product and bring it to market. You may lack technical experience to manufacture toys, so buying may be easy. There is no upfront investment required. For example, there is no factory to be set up. You can just get into an agreement and buy the product. At times, buying can be cheaper than making things yourself due to difference in market conditions. For example, we often hear that Chinese goods are cheaper than locally manufactured goods. So let's evaluate this scenario whether we should make these toys or whether we should buy these toys. Well, before we start, not every aspect of business decision can be modeled through numbers, but we can certainly model the financial aspect, and that's what we are doing in this exercise. We are only focusing on the financial aspect of the business. So let's look at the first scenario, which is scenario where you are manufacturing or making the toys yourself by setting up the plant. In this case, there would be few costs involved. First of all, there would be a fixed cost. What is a fixed cost? Well, a fixed cost is something you have to incur before you start your venture. For example, in our case, we talked about that you need to have a factory, you need to have a machinery. So that is a fixed cost. You don't have to incur that cost on a regular basis. So you have machine, you have building or initial setup that you have to do. So let's say that initially you need rupees 1 lakh to set it up, which basically means that you are doing some repair work of the building you have taken on rent, as well as, the machine that you would need to manufacture. Let's say you have basic version of the machine, and that's why your cost is reasonable to start with. That is 1 lakh rupee. The other cost is variable cost. Well, a variable cost is that cost such as that you need raw material or supplies, we also call it. So raw material is one of the variable cost. The other variable cost is electricity. You would need electricity to operate your machines, and then you would need workers to work for you, and they will have salaries. So these are basic cost which are variable in nature. So let's say you start with x amount of production, and as the production increases, so will these cost. For example, initially, let's say your machine could produce 1,000 units, but you are just producing 100 units to begin with. So you don't have to employ a lot of people or spend a lot of money on the electricity. You will have to spend only as per 100 units, whatever that expense related to 100 units. And as that production increases to, let's say, 1,000, your variable cost increases. So these costs will continue to increase in proportion as your production increases. So let's say in case of making the product, our variable cost is rupees 40 per toy or per unit. The second scenario is buying the product. In this case, all the cost is variable since you pay only for what you buy, and there is no upfront cost. So some of the variable cost include the price that you agree to pay to the supplier. So it is just one standard price. For example, you agree on x rupee per unit, so that is the price you pay to the supplier. Then you have transportation cost. So you have to get the product from somewhere, so there are trucks and everything that is used, so that comes under transportation cost. And then there are related duties, government duties that you pay, or import duties that go to the government that you pay. So these are duties. So these are broadly the variable cost associated when you're buying a product. So let's say in our case, the total of this, all these variable cost is comes out to, let's say, 55 rupees per toy or per unit. And that is what you are paying to the supplier. So now imagine that you expect to run this business for 5 years, in which you expect to produce 10,000 units. And let's assume that machinery and the building that you have is sufficient to produce those 10,000 units. So these 10,000 units are produced evenly over the next 5 years. In case of scenario 1, you would also get some salvage value for your machinery at the end of 5 years. What is that salvage value? Let's say today you are spending 1 lakh rupee on buying this machine. After 5 years, you know, there would be some value you would get. So this value could be from a second hand market or from a junk market, where you are able to sell this and get that money as part of your, cash inflow. So this, obviously you'll not get 1 lakh rupee because there is wear and tear that has gone in. So this 1 lakh rupee may not be worth 1 lakh rupee. It will be lot lower than that. So let's assume a scenario that, today you are spending 1 lakh rupee, but after 5 years, this machine is redundant. There is no ready market or second hand market for that, but you're able to sell different parts of the machine in the junk market. So they take it as a raw material, let's say steel, iron cost they give, and they agree to give you 20,000 rupees for this. So this 20,000 rupees is something called salvage value. So here is a summary of what we have for making scenario. That is 1 lakh rupees spent in first year and the variable cost of 40 units produced 2000 every year and a salvage value of 20,000 rupees at the end of 5 year. Similarly, for buying scenario, we have variable cost of 55 rupees per unit and unit produced 2000 per year. So in the next video, we will build an Excel model to do just the same. We'll continue our discussion on application of decision techniques. We'll cover invest in a new plant or not topic. In this topic, we will learn about break-even analysis. You decide that you would be manufacturing toys yourself. You realize that your first manufacturing unit has been profitable. The demand has been rising, and now you want to set up a new plant, second plant. Here are 3 sales projections that your sales team has shared with you for the possible additional sales volume they expect. So they are divided into 3 categories: pessimistic 3000 units, realistic 5000 units, optimistic 7000 units. And these projections are over the life of the plant. So now we need to evaluate at what sales volume the plant will break even and whether it makes sense to invest in setting up the second plant or not. What is break even? Break-even point is the sales volume at which the total revenue becomes equal to total cost, and any sale beyond that point, the business starts making overall profit. So it is a point at which there is no profit, no loss. On y-axis, we have revenue and cost expressed in rupees, and on x-axis, we have number of units, that's volume. So let's take a look at cost chart first. Even at 0 units, there is a fixed cost that is present because you would incur cost in setting up the plant irrespective of the units produced. As you produce more units, the variable cost associated with manufacturing increases. So variable cost starts at 0. Therefore, our total cost will basically be equal to fixed cost plus variable cost multiplied by number of units. Now let's plot revenue. As you start selling more and more, you will start making more money. Initially, units will be 0. Therefore, revenue will be 0. As you begin selling, revenue increases and total revenue becomes equal to, so it is sales price multiplied by number of units. Your sales price is usually higher than manufacturing cost, which is why this line is steeper than the cost line. As it keeps increasing, at some volume, total revenue will exceed the total cost. At the volume at which it exceeds is the break-even point. Before break-even, the plant was incurring loss. Beyond break-even, it's generating profit. Let's do this analysis in Excel now. Let's say our fixed cost in this case, we assume that it's 1 lakh rupee for all the 3 scenarios, irrespective of how many number of units produced, you have to incur 1 lakh rupee. Variable cost is 35 per unit and sales price is 50 per unit. So your total cost is fixed cost plus variable cost multiplied by number of units. We copy it for rest of the cells. Similarly, your sales price multiplied by number of units is the total revenue. Your net profit is total revenue minus total cost. So let's apply goal seek function to understand what are the number of units at which there is no profit, no loss, which is basically this point becomes 0. So let's do that. So we make this point equal to 0 by changing number of units cell. Press OK. So we get 6667, 6667. And that is where our total revenue and total cost matches. So our break-even point, let me just write it down, is 6667 units in this particular example. So let me just move it back to 7,000. So as you can see, all the three scenarios here, what our sales team had projected, if our actual sale matched with that of the pessimistic projection, which is this column, we would be incurring losses, as that can be reflected through net profit number, which is negative here. Similarly, for 5,000 units, it's negative. We are incurring losses. At 7,000, we will make profit since this volume is higher than the break-even point. How much profit we make is reflected in this. So as this number of units keep on changing, our profit will continue to increase. So if we were to apply the same numbers to this chart, we would have 1 lakh rupee as fixed cost, 35 as variable cost, and we have number of units as these. I have not taken 7,000. 7,000 would be somewhere at this side, but 6,667 units is the break-even point where there is no profit, no loss. And at this point, we know that our total cost is equal to total revenue. In this topic, we learned about what is break-even analysis and how to make an investment decision using it. Thank you for watching. At this point, let's move out of the business scenario and let's see how we can apply financial modeling and investment decision techniques in our personal lives, also through various scenarios. We will evaluate the following scenarios in this topic: purchasing versus renting a car, how to calculate EMIs. So you have a situation where you can either purchase a car, let's say for rupees 5 lakhs, or rent a taxi as and when you need it for your day-to-day commute. So decision to purchase would include an upfront payment. Let's say the cost of car is 5 lakh rupees, and cost for running this car including petrol and maintenance, let's say, is 10 rupees per kilometer. Similarly, we have a situation where you can rent a car. For that, we say that you have 20 rupees per kilometer as the running expense, as the rent that you pay. So now you want to decide whether you should purchase a car or rent a car, but it will depend on how many kilometers you travel. Let's see how. So let's say we have these scenarios, and as we said that the purchase cost is 5 lakh rupees, running cost is 10. Kilometers travel, we'll just leave it blank for now and see how it changes as we change the number of kilometers traveled, and rent per kilometer is 20. So our scenario 1, which is purchasing the car, our total cost will be 5 lakh rupee plus running cost multiplied by kilometers traveled. So in this case, we have not filled, so that's why it's 5 lakh. And let's say in case of renting a car, your scenario would be kilometers traveled multiplied by rent per kilometer. So let's see, how it changes. So let's see if we fill 500 kilometers, and this 500 kilometers, let's say, is in monthly number. So basically you are saying that you're traveling per year 12 months multiplied by, let's say, the life of the car, or this analysis is over 5 years. So as you can see, if you were to purchase the car, your cost would be 8 lakh rupees provided 500 kilometers per month you're traveling. Similarly, your rent is 6 lakh rupee. Let me just add a row here just to simplify this calculation so that we can use some formulas as well. Let's say we are writing kilometers traveled per month. So let me just link this particular cell with this so that you don't have to make the changes each time. So here we say that it's 500 kilometers, right? So let's just do some bit of changes with respect to how this sheet looks. All right. So in this scenario, when you're traveling 500 kilometers per month, we see that renting a car makes more sense. Similarly, let's say if we make it 1000 kilometers, then actually purchasing would make more sense. Over a life of 5 years, we see that purchasing would cost 11 lakhs, whereas renting would cost 12 lakhs. So basically what it really depends on is if you're a heavy traveler, buying a car makes more sense. And if you're not a heavy traveler, then renting a car makes more sense. In this video, you learned how to decide whether to purchase a car or rent a car. Thank you for watching. In this topic, we will learn what is an EMI and how is it calculated. Here is an example. If you look at the Apple iPhone X price on Amazon, we see that total price of phone including GST is about 85,000. You can pay all of it upfront. However, you also have an option of taking this on EMI. If you click on options, you get these EMI options. You can opt to pay for the phone in 3, 6, 9 or 12 months, equal installments as you can see here. If we opt for 12 months plan, we have to pay an interest of 18%, and total payment we would have to pay over 12 months is 93,513. As you can see, the difference between the total payment that we would have to make, that is 93,513, and the original price 85,000 is about 8,513. That is the total interest you will be paying over 12 months if you choose the 12 months EMI, and rest of it is the payment of original payment amount. So what exactly is an EMI? Well, an EMI stands for equated monthly installments. So for any loan, it could be a home loan, it could be a car loan, it could be any personal loan. It is a fixed sum of money that borrower pays every month to lender for a predefined number of months, and this fixed monthly sum covers the original principal amount as well as the interest generated over the duration of the loan. So in our previous example that we were showing on Apple iPhone X, we see that the EMI amount of rupees 7,793 if we choose the EMI plan of 12 months. So the difference, so the principal amount here is 85,000. However, we are paying 93,513, so the difference is towards the interest. So this 7793 should cover both principal component as well as interest component. And this amount stays constant over a period of 12 months. And at the end of 12 months, the loan is paid off, including the interest which is outstanding on that. So in the next video, we will learn how to calculate that EMI amount. So basically how to really understand the calculation around 7793 in this example. In this video, we'll learn a generic formula how to calculate EMIs, and then we will plug in the numbers as we saw in the previous slide. So let's denote our original amount, which is also called principal, as P. Let's call interest rate, which is an annual interest rate, as I. Since we are paying monthly installments, so let's call this I by 12, and let's denote this by R. So R is the monthly interest rate that you pay on the principal outstanding. And then we have to calculate EMI, which stands for equated monthly installments, which is a constant number throughout our tenure of the loan amount. And let's call this as X. So this X basically represents a combination of principal and interest, so that at the end of the tenure of the loan amount, principal and interest both gets paid off and zero is left as the outstanding. So what is that amount of EMI that is constant across all the months? That is what we need to calculate. So let's say this is the outstanding balance at the beginning of the month. Let's call this P, which is basically the original loan amount in month 1. These months will go on till 1 to 12 month, but we have to calculate till 13 month. I'll explain why we are calculating till 13 month, but let's start with month 1 here. So outstanding balance at the beginning of the month 1 is the amount of loan you have taken, so that's P. Then you have to pay the interest on this loan amount. So we know that our interest is R. So this becomes R multiplied by P, RP, the interest amount. So this is RP, which is the same as principal. And then we have the EMI that you pay at the end of the month. So this amount is constant and we have denoted that as X. So what is the outstanding at the beginning of month 2? So we know that principal outstanding is this at the beginning of month 1 plus RP, which is the interest payment, minus the EMI that you have paid. So this can be simplified by taking P as common, 1 plus R minus X. So this amount actually goes for the calculation of the interest, that is R multiplied by P 1 plus R minus X. And EMI is constant as X. So EMI will remain constant for throughout our 12 months. So what is the outstanding at the beginning of month 3, which is the principal amount at the beginning of month 2 plus the interest amount minus the EMI that you have paid. As we can see that this term is common in these two equations, so we can take it out as P1 plus R minus X, this whole bracket, 1 plus R minus X. So this equation, as you can see, this number matches with the outstanding of month 2. So this is nothing but month 2 outstanding multiplied by 1 plus r minus x. That is the outstanding for month 3. Similarly, on this, you pay the interest, which is r multiplied by, let me just write it down. So r multiplied by p 1 plus r minus x 1 plus r minus x. So this becomes the interest amount for month 3, and then again you pay x as the EMI. So now we are on month 4. Since the equation is long, so I'm not getting a full space to write here. So let's say this is outstanding principal at the beginning of month 4, which is nothing but what was the outstanding balance at the beginning of month 3. So which is P1 plus R minus X this whole multiplied by 1 plus R minus X plus the interest component minus the EMI amount that is paid in month 3 at the end of month 3. So this is the principal outstanding at the beginning of month 4. In this we know that this part and this part of the equation is common. So we just take that out. I'm just rewriting the equation here. This entire thing 1 plus r minus x. And if we multiply this number, we get 1 plus r raised to 2 minus x 1 plus r minus x. One plus r minus x. This also gets multiplied, so 1 plus r raised to 3 So there is a pattern of these equation getting formed here where beginning of the month 4 we start with p1 plus r raised to 3 minus x1 plus r raised to 2 minus x1 plus r minus x. So what do you think will be the outstanding principal at the beginning of month 5? It will be p multiplied by 1 plus r raised to 4 minus x 1 plus r raised to 3 minus x 1 plus r raised to 2 minus 1 plus r minus x. So now my question is, what should be the outstanding balance at the beginning of month 13, which is also end of month 12? So it is p1 plus r raised to 12 minus x 1 plus r raised to 11 minus x 1 plus r raised to. So this is the outstanding principal at the beginning of month 13. So and we know that at the end of month 12 or beginning of month 13th, our outstanding principal, outstanding interest, everything should become equal to 0. So as we have written here that p1 plus r raised to 12 plus minus x1 plus r raised to 11 minus x1 plus r raised to 10 and so on till minus x, all this should equal to 0. We can take x as common, and what we get here is 1 plus r raised to 11 minus 1 plus r raised to 10, 9 and so on till minus 1. And since we have taken minus x as common, so this becomes positive. So this is the equation. So for those who are mathematically inclined can clearly see that this is a geometric progression, which is 1 plus 1 plus r plus 1 plus r raised to 2 and so on. So if we have to simplify this, the equation of geometric progression, this equation can be written as 1 plus r raised to 12 minus 1 divided by r. So in the helper text, you can find more information in terms of geometric progression and this equation. And we know that this has to be equal to 0. So this is equal to 0. So when we solve for x, this equation, x is nothing but EMI, we get p multiplied by 1 plus r raised to 12 multiplied by r divided by 1 plus r raised to 12 minus 1. So if we have to just make a generic formula, then instead of 12, this actually becomes P 1 plus R raised to N multiplied by R divided by 1 plus R raised to N minus 1. So this is more of a generic formula for EMI. So an EMI can be calculated with this generic formula that we derived, that is, we called EMI is equal to P multiplied by 1 plus R raised to N, that is N here raised to the power, multiplied by R divided by 1 plus R raised to N minus 1. We know that our phone is costing 85,000 rupees, so that's the P multiplied by 1 plus 1.5%, that is monthly interest rate. So 18% divided by 12 is 1.5% monthly interest raised to the power 12, that is 12 months, multiplied by 1.5%. This whole equation divided by 1 plus 1.5% raised to 12 minus 1. This comes down to 7792.80. So very close to 7793 approximately. So which matches with what we were shown on Amazon website. In order to buy Apple iPhone X, if you were to take a 12-month EMI, you have to pay 7,793 over a period of 12 months to buy that phone. So this is exactly what matches with what is shown on the Amazon website. We will now create a model for EMI in an Excel. Thanks for watching. We will continue our discussion on EMI calculation. In this video, we will understand how to create a model to calculate an EMI. So we know that our loan amount, basis our previous example, was 85,000. It was 84,999. For simplicity, we are taking 85,000. The rate, which is given as 18% on Amazon website, is basically a per annum rate. And we also said that this rate can be denoted by I. So let me just write I here. And R, we said that it's I divided by 12. Just remember that, so let me just have a different color where the input goes. And basis the same, structure that we created to calculate a generic formula for EMI. Let's create the months here. These months will go to month 13 because this is the beginning of the period. Then we have outstanding principal. Let's call it P at the beginning. This is the interest that you pay, and this is the EMI amount. So what we really want to achieve here is a common EMI at the end of month 12 or beginning of month 13th that gets paid off. So nothing is left really as an outstanding principal here. So let's see, we are linking this with the initial uh, principal amount. We calculate the interest here, which is 1.5% of 85,000, and EMI is constant. So let's not write an EMI right now, but we can easily link that EMI, because this EMI for 12 months will actually be constant. So that's why we are linking it with only one cell. So start of month 2, as we discussed earlier also, what will be the outstanding principal? It will be previous month outstanding plus the interest minus EMI. Similarly, we need to calculate interest here. So let's fix these cells. Only R you need to fix it, rest will move. So as you can see that it's 1294. Again, we can just copy it on the next beginning of month 3. This is the outstanding, and this should work. So we can copy the entire thing up till 12 months. So let's do a little bit of formatting here before we really arrive at EMIs. So we can see that this is the outstanding, and just for simplicity also we need to do the same thing as here, which is beginning of month 13. Just remember, this is the outstanding principal at the beginning of 12 month. This is the interest calculation, and then you pay the EMI at the end of the month. So which is basically what is the outstanding at the beginning of month 13. So this is more like trial and error here. So we can write, at what number, this EMI will make the value 0 at the end of 12 months. Since we have interest to pay, intuitively your EMIs will be more than 85,000 divided by 12. That is 7,083. We can just write different numbers to really see. We can see it's not 0, and we know in our previous video we calculated 7,793 as the EMI amount. So we see that approximately that value makes this number 0. After paying this EMI towards the end of month 12, what is outstanding at the beginning of month 13 is pretty much 0. It's -2. So we can assume it's close to 0 here. So we can calculate, one way of doing this would be doing a trial and error method using different numbers to really arrive at what could be the EMI amount. The other way to look at it would be applying the goal seek here. What we really want to achieve is, this value stays constant by making this term 0. So let's do that. So we go on data tab, what if analysis, and then goal seek. We want to have this number equal to 0, and we have to change this cell. So let's do the goal seek here. So we see that it's not exactly 7793, it's 7792.8, and I think that's what we got in our previous video also. So that is why there was an additional 2 rupees or 3 rupees extra. But as we put the exact value there, this value becomes 0 at the end of month 12 or beginning of month 13. Okay, so we can actually, for a modeling point of view, we can delete this, and we can just do a little bit of formatting here. So let's change this also as principal outstanding. And when you're creating these models, you should be aware that principal outstanding is beginning of the period, interest is during the period, and EMI is during the end of the period. So we have understood that one method of calculating this EMI is applying this formula that we learned in the previous video. One way is to do this detailed calculation, create a model around that. The third way of doing this is using an Excel function which is with the name called PMT. So let me explain what is that PMT function stands for. So PMT is basically short form of payment. So if you type in equal to PMT, you will see various options that will come in. So the first is the rate. This rate is our monthly rate. So we can link this with the monthly rate here. NPER stands for the duration. So in our case, the duration was 12 months. So I'll just write it 12 months here. Present value is the amount of loan that you are taking. So what is the amount of value in today's term is basically what this PV, the present value, stands for. So that is 85,000. We do not have any future value here. What we really need to know is understand what is the monthly installments. So we'll just keep it 0. And type also we can leave it blank. Type is basically used for beginning of the month or end of the month. In the default option is actually the beginning of the month, the way we were calculating earlier in Excel. In case you wanted end of the month, then you need to type in 1, otherwise it assumes 0. And the bracket closes. You will see that the number that will come here is in negative form. So let me just type in. So first of all, it matches with the EMI number. The only difference is you see a negative sign here. You need to ensure that whatever value you are putting as present value, you have a negative sign in front of that. The logic around this is basically there is money coming in and money going out. So if you logically think about it, 85,000 rupees is something you're getting today, and what you're giving out is 77, 92, 80 every month over the next 12 months. So that is what is happening, and that is why there is a positive and a negative sign which needs to be taken care of. So as I said, you need to just put in negative sign in front of the present value to get this number as a positive number. And as we can see that it's 7,792 and 80 paisa, which matches with our EMI that we have calculated with previous methods. So in this video, we learned what is an EMI and how to calculate an EMI, both in terms of creating a generic formula as well as creating a model to calculate an EMI. Thank you for watching.